What you guys got another video on how to create a custom Windows 10 ISO with all your settings. So if you've got an operating system that you like and you've got all your settings in place, I'm going to show you how you can create a custom one with all your programs, drivers and all your settings and save those. Now this is just one way of doing it. So first off, head over to Microsoft's website and download the media creation tool and download the ISO for Windows 10 using this. Now you can also do this with Windows 11 as well. If you want to see a Windows 11 one, let me know in the comments section below and I'll be happy to make that video for you. But basically what you're going to do is open up the media creation tool here, accept their terms and conditions, and we need to download the ISO first. So what is the purpose of doing this? Well, a lot of people complain about the laborious process of having to configure everything inside Windows when they do a fresh install. This way it will be your own creation. You won't have to go through a bunch of different hoops to get things the way you like it because it'll already be created in this ISO. So we're going to go through here and download the ISO like I'll show you here. And once we've got this, we're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to download this into my download section, click save, and then we're going to just quickly change this name here to Windows 10 here. So I'll know exactly which one we've got here. And we're going to save this. And it's now going to download and put this into that location. That's now finished. All I need to do now is open up some virtual machine software. You can either use VMware Player or you can use something like VirtualBox if you want. I've got VMware Station and I'll be using that, but it's a paid bit of software. But VMware Player is free and so is VirtualBox. So I've got this open and what we're going to do now is create a new virtual machine here and we're going to go to typical recommended, click next, and we can leave this like this, click next, and now we need to choose our version of Windows. So we're going to Windows 10 64-bit and now you can install it wherever you want on what location you want to install it onto. So I'm going to go on my D drive here and select that and give it a name and then save it. Now we're going to leave this as 60 gigabytes and I'm going to leave it on store virtual disk as a single file. And now we can customize our hardware settings here. So here you can give it some more cores if you want to. And you can also give it a little bit more memory. I'm just going to give it the ISO file that we downloaded here. So it will install from this ISO. And from here, we can now take a look at some of these settings. Now, there is other ones in here like your memory. You can boost this up depending on how much memory your system's got and how many cores and threads will determine how much you can set this up as. So now we got our installation right here. I'm going to go back to edit the virtual machine settings because now once we've completed this, we can now click on add here because we need to add another drive. So what we're going to do, you can see hard disk here. And from here, I'm going to click on the hard disk, go next, and create another 60 gig hard disk. Now, mine is an NVMe here, recommended. So just do the recommended, click next, create a new virtual disk, click next again. And now we can leave this as 60. We can do the same thing, store on a single file if we want to, but I'm just going to leave that as is, all default here. So now we've got two 60 gig hard drives here. So what we're going to do is we're going to now click OK. And now we're going to power this on for the first time and boot to our ISO. And now you can see here, I'm going to push any key to boot to the ISO. It's now going to start to install Windows. First off, we need to install Windows onto this virtual machine so we can get all the settings for our machine like this. So what we're going to do is change this to whatever you like here. Now, if you're using Windows 11, you can drop this down to the world setting here. And when you put this on English World, it will remove a lot of the bloat during the installation process. This doesn't work with Windows 10, I don't think, so we'll try it anyway. We'll click next and we'll start to install. I don't have a product key, so I'm going to click here. I don't have a product key, and we're going to move on to the next step. Now here you can choose whatever version of Windows you want. I like to use the Pro version, and if you're going to use the group policy editor to make your settings, then you're going to need the Pro version or above. So I'm going to do Windows 10 Pro because that's the version I use. Accept their terms and conditions, click next, and now go custom. So we're going to choose disk drive 0 here and install our Windows onto that drive. Now that's going to go through this installation process. I'll skip this bit here to this part, which is the next important bit. So choose your keyboard layout, and next we can do our layout for England, and now we can skip this second keyboard layout, and now it's going to go off and do some updates, which it would normally do. So let it go down and download all these updates. Now we can choose to set up for personal use, and we're going to select this one here, click next, and from here we're going to do an offline account. So let's do offline and click on this one here. It's now going to ask us, do we want to have any of this stuff? I'm going to say limited experiences, and now I'm going to just go and give it a name. So let's go ahead and give this a name. I'm going to say Britec here, click next, and now we can give it a password if you want. I'm just going to skip that part, and we're going to now also say no, not now, and then we can select this one here, and then we can click next. So let's click next. And now we want to say, obviously, no to all this stuff because this is their telemetry. So I'm going to go through and put no here and send required stuff. No for the improved inking and typing. Doesn't really matter really because we're going to turn all this off anyway after the fact, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to skip this bit here. So click skip. And now we also want to say not now for Cortana and let the installation finish off. So that's basically the beginnings of the setup process. It'll take a few minutes to get a few things ready, and then it will say almost there, and we should be then at the desktop. Once we're here, we need to configure our browser. Now, if you're going to be uninstalling Edge, then obviously just get this set up quickly, and then we can go ahead and remove this later on. I'll show you basically some of the ways to uninstall stuff and remove stuff if you want to. If you don't, then leave it well alone, but you're going to need to set this up in any case so you can start to download other browsers. So we already know that once you install Windows on a system, it already has quite a few processes running and also a lot of memory use, and that's just due to the amount of bloat that comes pre-installed in Windows. So first thing to do is use a tool to remove a lot of this stuff. Now you can do a lot of this stuff with scripts or tools that you like to use, but we're going to go ahead and use Chris Titus Text tool here just to show you basically the steps, because it's a very popular tool that a lot of people like to use, and that's the one that some people have requested me to make a video on. So let's go ahead and use his tool. So go to his website and click copy, and we can copy that code. Right click on the start button and go to Windows PowerShell and open this up like so. All you need to do here is paste in this right here, and this is now running, and it's now going to go ahead and download his tool and basically get it all ready. And it should pop up on the screen once it's finished downloading. So just be patient. Now, of course, if you don't want to use this tool and you don't want to do any of this, then you can leave this part out. But a lot of people want to use this. So go to tweaks. And now what we can do is go to where it says desktop, because that's what we've got. And we're going to be doing this on a desktop. If you're doing it on a laptop, use the laptop settings and so on. So we're going to go desktop here and leave these settings as is. And from here, you've got some other options that you can check mark if you wish. Now, there's also some advanced tweaks which have a caution on them because it's removing key components like OneDrive and also some other things like Microsoft Store and so on. Now, if you want to add the ultimate performance profile plan, you can click on this one here. And you can also turn on dark theme as well if you want to do that. So we're going to do the dark theme. But once you click on the add ultimate performance profile, go to the search box and click on the search box here and type control panel and open this one up. And now go to category. And once you go there, go large icons and go to where your power plans are. So once you get inside here, look for power options and go into power options, and we need to enable that feature. So let me go ahead and quickly do that right here. Put the radio button in ultimate performance, and now that is done, we can go back to Chris Titus Text tool, and you can now run the tweaks. So you can see here, there is some areas here as well which you can have a look at, but there is run tweaks right here, and we can run it. Now, of course, once you click on run tweaks, it's going to start doing all of those and reducing the amount of services that are running and a bunch of other tweaks on the system. So once you've got that done, that's the tweaks taken care of. There is some advanced tweaks which I did mention here. So if you want to install applications as well, there's some applications here to download, but it will need Winget and Chocolatey installed on the system, but I don't want to do it this way. I just want to put Firefox on here and have a very minimal install. Also updates, if you want to do the security updates option only, then I'm going to turn that on myself here, but you can do whatever you like on your build. On the config here, I want to get all the .NET frameworks downloaded and installed on the system. And that's because a lot of games use this sort of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and download and install all of these features. There's also some other stuff here happening in the background because I've just enabled that feature to be downloaded and installed. So let that go off and do that for us. And once we've done that, we can then move on to the next step. Now again, if you need to skip any of these steps, by all means do so. If you don't need a lot of this stuff, then don't install it. But a lot of this stuff is useful for programs and games, so I always install this on the system. It's a lot easier to deal with once it's on here. So let this go ahead and download and install all of these. And once we've done this, we can move on to the next phase. So the next one here, you can see there's some other options available here. And there is, like, for instance, a disable search box, web suggestions, and also we've got enable search box for web suggestions here. So we're going to disable ours because we don't want that running on the system. And we can go ahead and install this feature by clicking on this one here. Now, once you're finished with Chris Titus Text Tool, all you need to do here is close all this off and restart the PC to make those changes. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to quickly click restart. And once we restart, the processes will have been reduced dramatically and a lot of the settings will be done for us. So it's going to go ahead and save a lot of these settings. And all we need to do now is boot back up. Now remember, this is only one way of doing this task. You can do this in many different ways, but this is just one way, which is quite a simple way for people to follow. So now that's done, we can go back and go into Task Manager here and take a look at the Performance tab, and you will see the processes have been reduced by half basically, and the memory usage has been reduced right down. So we've started to make a dent on some of the bloat that's inside Windows and some of the settings. So what we need to do here is continue on getting our system ready. Now the next job is to download a browser. If you don't want to use Microsoft Edge, then download a browser of your choice. Let's just choose Firefox. Doesn't really matter what browser you're using. We're just going to download and install that on the system. So let's go ahead and install Firefox. We can remove that back page here. And now it's going to go ahead and install all of this on our PC. So I'm going to make this our default browser. So you can see here, pin Firefox to the taskbar, set Firefox as our default browser so we can leave those check marked. We don't need to import any stuff over because we're not using Edge and it's a fresh install, so we can skip the rest of this stuff. And that is now basically done. We are now ready to use, and we can click the actual cog here and turn a lot of this stuff off if you're not using it. So it's very minimalistic, and that's what we're going to do right here. So that's now done. Next up, what we can do next is to download our Visual C++. These are all our runtimes that can be used for, you know, retro games and other programs. And this is useful to have these on the system. So we're going to download and get all these installed on the system. That way you don't have to worry about it in the future. It'll already be installed on the computer. So we're going to extract all of this stuff here, and this will extract these. Now these are all from Microsoft's website, so don't worry. Because we've run the batch file as administrator, it's going to go ahead and start to install all of the installation files that we have just downloaded here. So let that go ahead and do what it needs to do. And you can see it goes right back. So if you ever want to install a program that has a dependency for that particular file, then it will work straight away because we already have it installed on the system. They don't take up a lot of space and it's worth installing them. So they're all now done. And we have all of our .NET frameworks done as well. So now that's done, let's move on to the next step. Next, we're going to deal with all of the bloat apps here to remove them. So when we save our image, it's not going to have all of this installed on the system. And that's what we want. We want a nice, clean, actual menu system. So we're going to use O&O App Buster, I'm going to download this one here, install this on the system. You see me use this before in my videos, and this is just another option. There's plenty of them out there. Use whatever ones you want to use, but this is just a real nice clean way of selecting what programs you want to remove from your system. So I'm going to go ahead here and select the ones that I don't need. Now, obviously, we want to keep all of the Microsoft Visual C++. So we're going to go ahead and remove all of this stuff we don't want. And once you've done that, it's going to start to uninstall all of these from the computer, as you can see right here. So I'll just let that finish and we can move on to the next step. And there we go. That is now completed, and you should have something looking like this. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off now. And what we need to do next is we're going to download Wise Program Uninstaller, because we're going to uninstall Edge. And this is a real easy way of removing Edge from the computer. Now, if you want to leave Edge on the system, by all means do so. But if you want to remove it, then you can use this method to remove it. I've added it in the video because people will always ask how you do stuff. So you don't have to do it, but if you want to do it, this is how you can do it. So open up the application, and you can see here, if you try to uninstall it straight off the bat here by just clicking uninstall, it's not going to work, and it's going to give you an error code. And that's because you need to force uninstall. So let's go ahead and do this. I'll show you. You may see something like this popping up. Don't worry, it can uninstall it. All you need to do here is click OK here. And what you need to do is put the check mark in, a double click on it here, and you'll see force uninstall. Say yes, and it will close all of those down. We're going to remove all of the remnants that are left behind here. So select all, and we can now click on remove. And this will remove the Edge from our system. So click remove. And there we go. Click OK here. And there's still a few little bits left behind. So let's go into Metro Apps, and we can now remove some bits here. So let's go ahead and remove Microsoft Edge and uninstall. There we go. That's now done. And we can now click uninstall again. Now, I'm not using system restore points because that takes up space, and I want to keep the size to a minimum. I'm going to remove this stuff from the browser extensions as well, delete those. And while we're here, we can do the Internet Explorer as well and remove these from the system as well and uninstall those. So that's basically Edge gone from our system, and that's now cleaned up lovely. And again, you can remove what you want on your complete image, how you want to do it. Now, the Microsoft Store is another one that people like to remove. If you want to move that off the system, I'll show you how to do that as well. You can do it via this method, but I'll show you another way to do that a little bit later on. So let's close this off now. And what we're going to do is close that off and say not interested here. That's now done. And what we can do next is go here and type in here control panel, because we want to remove any applications that are left behind, because we don't want these on the system. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go in here, and we're going to go to, let's see, add and remove programs. There it is, programs and features. And now we can uninstall the Wise Program Uninstaller. And again, you can remove whatever you like here, depending on what you want to uninstall. You can see it's quite minimalistic. There's not a lot in here. If you wanted to remove this here, remote desktop connection, you can do. But I'm going to leave Firefox in here, but you can see everything else has been removed. So let's go ahead and remove the remote desktop connection, because I don't want that on the system. Leaving snipping tool on there, but you can remove that if you wish. It's going to restart the system and uninstall this for us. It's going to boot back up, and we'll let that get back to the desktop. We are getting there. There's only a few more steps to go, and then we can start thinking about creating our image so we can basically use this on all of our future installs. So I'm just going to move this up here. Now, some people go as far as removing these from the desktop and putting their own wallpaper on. I'm pretty sure you know how to do all of that. So if you want to add that part in, by all means do so. I'm just going to hide the search box here and leave the icon. And again, we are looking pretty tidy here now. And there's a few things in here. If I wanted to remove some more bits, I can do, but I think that's good enough for what we need here. Next up, we've got all of these areas here, which is inside the privacy area. So if you want to go here and start to disable a lot of this stuff, you can do. You can either do it manually by going in here and turning it off manually. but I like to use the group policy to do a lot of this stuff. And the way you can do that is by using the group policy editor. Now, I've made videos showing you how to do this. I'll show you a couple of things on how to do this, and then you can go and watch some of my other videos. Otherwise, I'm just going to be repeating myself. So type group policy editor inside the search here. You do need to have Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11 Pro and above to be able to gain access to the group policy editor. If you're using Windows 10 Home or Windows 11 Home, I've also made videos showing you how to do it as well using a different method. So first off, let me just show you here. I'm not going to go through it into too much detail here, but we're going to remove a lot of the app privacy here, and this is just to do with all of those settings. So open this up and we can basically put this on enabled and do force deny here, and we can apply this and OK, and it takes care of all of those. So all you need to do here is run through all of these. I've done all of these now. I've just left the microphone, but if you need your camera, then don't disable the camera. But I've left just the microphone alone. But if you want your camera, make sure you do the camera as well. Otherwise, you're going to end up having issues. Next up, turning off file history. I don't want file history running on here. It's just another service. So I'm basically going to disable this. And also there's some other ones on here as well, like the search. I'm going to get rid of all Katana and things like that. Okay. So I'm just going to go through here and take care of all of this stuff. If you need to know about how to do this completely, please go and watch some of my other videos on the ultimate tweaks for Windows to deal with this problem here, because it is quite a lengthy process. But once it's done, you can then basically save these settings, and these will be on your image. So when you install Windows, these will already be in place and you won't have to keep doing it. So anyway, let's move on to the next step. And that is to deal with Windows Defender. Now, I'm not an advocate of removing Windows Defender from your system, but if you do want to remove it, you can do it. You can download this tool and it's going to remove Windows Defender from your system. A lot of gamers like to do this, but I would always recommend that you download, another antivirus program in its place. And if that's the case, then you might as well just leave Windows Defender on here. So we're going to run it and just show you how to do it anyway, just so you know how to do it. But if you don't want to do it, skip this part. I'm not recommending you do this, but it's just the way that some people want to do it. So what we need to do here is remove Windows Defender and all of its components. And we're going to say Y for yes here and just remove all of that stuff and it'll be gone. There'll be no Windows Defender on this PC. So that's done. We can wait now for 70 seconds and then we can press a key on the keyboard to continue. There we go. It's going to restart the system and we'll let the system boot back up. So we're going to let this boot back up to the desktop, and that is Windows Defender taken care of. And again, like I've said, if you want to keep it, leave it alone. We skip that part. But that's now gone and it's all looking pretty tidy now. We are getting somewhere. And now if we go into our settings for our privacy, you can see these are all now turned off. These are all dealt with in group policy. I've gone through and turned everything off, which you can see how to do in a full length in one of my previous videos. Go and check my playlist out and you'll see them inside there. If you watch my content for any length of time, you'll know how to do this already. But basically that's now done. All the storage sense is turned off. It's all done and that's now taken care of. So now we've got these settings all done, we can now move on to the next step. This is going to be useful for when you want a lighter weight system that's not using a lot of system resources. Now the security settings are turned on here, which means that only our security updates are coming down and not feature updates. When you click on check for updates here, it will only pull down the security updates that are needed for this system. And you can do it manually as well. It's set to manual, so you can do it when you want to do it, rather than being forced to do it. So I'm going to download all of these and get these installed on the system so it's fully updated before we create an image here. You can see here all of these other ones are taken care of. So let's go back, let that download and update, and we can move on to the next step. And that is taking care of some of the pre-installed apps inside this menu here. We can remove these and unpin these. So let's uninstall some of this stuff here that's been left behind. There's only a couple of them here. And again, Microsoft things to do, we can remove this as well. And this one here. So the menu is completely empty. You can configure and organize yours afterwards if you want to. Now, if you're one of these people that want to remove the Microsoft Store, then you can do. There is a simple command you can use in PowerShell that will uninstall the Microsoft Store. So if you want to do that, then follow this part here. If you don't want to remove the Microsoft Store and you use it, then leave it alone. So we're just going to paste that command in, and that is it. It's gone. It's uninstalled from the system. You can see it's now gone. Now you can configure yours if you want to, the menu here. You can change the menu if you want to Classic Shell or one of the other ones like Start 11 for Windows 10, or you've got other ones you can use as well if you don't like the menu system. So now we need to empty the recycle bin and do a bit of house cleaning here, because obviously we've been using stuff and we don't want all of this stored. So we're going to go in here and remove all of the traces of what we've been using our browser for, and that way it's nice and clean and ready to go. And you can do some setting changes in here if you want to, change the DNS and all that stuff if you want to, and make some changes to the privacy settings depending on what you want to do. Clear all the data. This is in case you've used your browser to download stuff. Obviously you don't want this being left behind on the browser, because this is going to be our clean image. Once that's done, we've emptied the recycle bin, and we can now go into our download section and remove all of the stuff we've downloaded and used on this. So we don't want to be backing this up and having this on our image, because obviously we want it nice and clean. So that's now taken care of, and we are looking in pretty good shape now. So we just need to restart and let the update do its thing, because there's some Windows updates still happening. So we'll let that happen, and we should be pretty much good to go from here. Okay, so that's now all updated, and we're now back at the desktop here. So what we need to do is right click on the start button and go to disk management. From here, we're going to prepare our second drive that we had. This is where we're going to store our image. So let's click on this one here, GPT, and we've got unallocated. So click on the create a new simple volume, click next. And from here, we can give it a name. We're going to just call this data. This is where our file is going to be, and we can perform a quick format and click finish, and that's now done. So that's now all completed. So now all we need to do now is image our C drive and put it into our data partition or our drive here. So let me eject this bit here. So we've got that done. And here we have our drive. So this is our drive. So I'm just going to quickly disable all of the search here for the search files, because that's another thing that people like to do. So we're going to go ahead and do this, ignore all, and let it do its thing. You will see this popping up on the screen here. It does take a bit of time, so be patient and let it finish its thing. And this will basically stop all of the indexing. And this is another thing that really does slow down the system. Now we need to shut down the PC. So we're going to shut down our PC. And there is the actual image that we've got here. So what we're going to do is now boot to our ISO again. So make sure we've got our ISO selected here. Choose to boot to SATA CD-ROM here. And this will allow us to boot to our ISO again. Because what we need to do is now back up our image. So we're going to push enter here to boot to our ISO. This will load up. Just be patient here. And once this gets to this next step, this is the bit where we need to go next. And now make sure you click on repair your computer. Click on this one here, and this will take us to the choose an option. So we're going to go troubleshoot and then go to command prompt. Once you're inside command prompt, a little box will pop up here, and we need to now find our drive. So I know our drive is C. So let's go ahead and type C : and push enter, and then type dir, and you should see this is our Windows drive. This is the one we want to back up. That's the one we've just prepared for our image. So we can now go D : and push dir, and now we know that that's our data drive. That's where we're going to copy our C drive to. So now go X : and take us back to the X drive. And now we know that our D drive is our data drive and our C drive is our Windows drive. Yours might be different, so bear that in mind. So change the drive letters to the drive that you're using. So now we can type out this big command here, dism // capture -image / image file D drive, which is our D drive where we're going to send the image. And it's going to be called install.wim. And we're going to capture the C drive here. So this is what we're going to call it as well, Windows 10 underscore custom. And now it's going to go ahead and copy our C drive and put it into our D drive. So we should have called our file install.wim, and it should be stored right on our data drive, is our D drive right here. And there it is, the file right there. So now we need to download Power ISO. So Power ISO is a tool that we can use to convert from WIM to ESD, because we're going to need this to copy this over. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to select install.wim to convert from WIM to ESD. And that's what we're going to do here. So now we're converting that file. It does take a bit of time, so be patient. And again, if you don't want to do this and you want to just use the WIM file because you've got some sort of other configuration, by all means do so. But I need the ESD file, and that is why we need to convert it from install.wim to install.esd. That's now done, and we can now close this off. And what we're going to do here now is close off Power ISO. And there is other tools that do that as well, but we're using that one. So there is our two files now. I'm just going to copy the install.esd to my main computer. So just right click here, copy. And I can now go to my main computer where I've installed VMware and paste it into a folder. And it's into a folder on my desktop called Windows 10 Custom. And we'll just copy that in there. Now we've got it on our main system. We are finished with our virtual machine. Now we can use AnyBurn to edit the image file. So click on Edit Image File. And now we can select our file that we want to use. So we're going to use the original Windows 10 ISO that we downloaded and what we installed on our virtual machine to edit. Now we're going to click Next, go into Sources, and inside here you should see the install.esd, which is inside the original Windows 10 ISO. So we're going to highlight this and we're going to delete it or remove it. So let's go ahead and click Remove, and we're going to replace that with our own install.esd. So let's go ahead and click Add and select our install.esd that we've just created with all our settings and our programs. And now that's done. We can now create our own ISO image, and this should be good enough to use and install. So give it a name that you can recognize. So I'm going to call this Windows 10 custom.iso. And there we go. We should be good to go. And once you reinstall this on any system, all of the settings should be in place like this, and you won't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. And that's how you can create your custom ISO. It's an easy way to do it. There's many other ways to do this, like MSMG Toolkit and NT Lite, but these can be quite complicated and difficult to understand. I have made full-length videos on these programs, so if you want to do it that way, you can do. This is just another way of doing things. And again, once you get to the update section, you might see this error code here. Don't worry, just click retry and it will work perfectly fine. So everything should be working fine, and this is basically how you can create your own custom ISO with your own applications and your own drivers and everything else installed on it. It saves a lot of time. I hope this video has been some sort of use to you. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. I shall catch you in the next video, or I'll see you on the Discord server for a chat. Bye for now.